Hello everybody, Gisele Grenier here. In this little video tutorial, I'm going to be referring back to my Q&A emails I've been getting, and I erased this particular question because she wrote her name down. But the question was, I don't have palette paper, what else can I use? So I did, in a past video I talked about maybe using a coffee lid can. This is from Folders. And I thought this might be a good way to reuse this here. Where we are, you can't recycle black plastic. So I'm going to use that. And I thought, why not make it like a gray palette, which is neutral, which is really good for painting, because that way the colors that go on aren't too dark and aren't too light compared to white palette paper. And I use a no-stick cooking sheet, but the problem with these, because they're brown, if you use paint that's transparent, the brown shows through and doesn't give you a true color representation. All right, so we're going to use that. I'm going to give you a couple of ideas on how to work this. Because it's plastic, paint doesn't usually stick to plastic unless you use paint that's made for plastic. So what you can do is you can take your lid. It can be plastic, Chinese food tray, stuff that you get at the store, like ready-made food. Sometimes it comes in these plastic trays, and you can use those as well. So what you can do is you can take some sandpaper and sand it. Make sure you wear a mask. Sand it and then wash it. Let it air dry, and then use some rubbing alcohol, maybe 75% and higher, and just give it a wipe down. And then what you can do is you can use a multi-purpose sealer to apply a layer to seal it, and then paint it with gray paint, and then apply a high gloss polyurethane varnish. You can't use regular mixed media varnish. It has to be polyurethane because this makes it waterproof. Or outdoor varnish, that works just as well. What I'm going to do is use DecoArt Americana multi-surface satins, which is suitable for almost any surface around, and I'm using black tie and cotton ball. So let's basically go, and you don't need to use sealer, but let's put it on there anyways. So I just give it a light shake, and I'm just going to use a brush. I'm just going to paint this here like this, just to show you the technique. With the multi-surface satins, you don't really need to, but anything that makes it stick better is useful. Now the other thing that you can do is, if you have a piece of glass from a picture frame, you could use that and paint a piece of paper, the same gray mix I'm going to show you, put that underneath the glass, then the edges with masking tape, which works just as well. And the problem with that one is you have to make sure that you really tape the edges well, otherwise you will cut yourself. I just wanted to do this one with the coffee lid, just to, try something different, see if it'll work. So already so far, I'm not liking the nitty-gritty little pieces here, but you know what? If it stops this from going into landfill, that's fine. I'm going to, and part is you don't have a lot of room for doing your mixing. So you can put the paint on here and mix it on, let's say, regular paper, then use that paper in art after the fact. You can do that. All right, so I'm almost done. And always follow the directions on the paint bottle for curing. So for this here, seal raw wood surfaces. You mix it 1-to-1 with paint. Alrighty, so that's good. Shake well. Yeah, I know. I intentionally planned to read the directions. Apply with a brush or sponge. Allow to dry. Covers approximately 36 square feet with this bottle. Water-based permanent soap and water cleanup. And then you can go to decoart.com for more information on how to use this. So let that dry. So the multi-surface satins, oh my God, squinty print. Shake well, apply 1 to 2 coats. Air cure for 7 days. And for top rack dishwasher safe finish. Clean surface well with alcohol. Paint glass or glazed ceramic piece. Allow to dry 4 days. So this is obviously just for glass with the baking part. It's self-sealing, indoor, outdoor. Oh, okay, so we don't really need the varnish with this. That brings up a good point. Okay, I gotta do some talking to let this dry, and I can't use a heat gun on this. Pop quiz. Why can't I use a heat gun on this? I know it sounds silly, but I want to get some beginners out there trying to figure out why can't I use a heat gun on this. If you're, okay, let me backstep. In our Facebook group, we've got some people doing some little videos of what they've done, and that's awesome. When you're working with a palette like this, look, you got the glare. So that's what happens when you use a high gloss, even a gloss or high gloss varnish. So a tip, if you're going to be filming your artwork, don't varnish it. Don't varnish it. Do your filming. Then at the end, what you can do is that you can varnish it and then just do a quick look. But make sure you're able to hold it where you can kind of tilt it where there is no glare. There's nothing more frustrating than doing filming and you're watching a video on the actual focal piece and there's glare. Like I know there's glare where everything's backwards on my monitor here. That doesn't matter. That's not part of the piece. I'm talking right here. Okay, see the little bit of glare right there? So as long as you can tilt it, but the minute you put high gloss varnish on something, eek. All right, so like that. Now because I can mix that with paint, I'm just gonna go ahead and paint it. If you don't have the multi-surface satins, you can use regular paint. So make sure you use a sealer, regular paint, and then varnish. I am going to varnish this, although it's not necessary, just to show you what it looks like. So I've got my paint here. So I've got the cotton ball and I've got the black tie. It doesn't look like it's a pure black. It looks like it's gray, but it doesn't matter. So what I want to do is I want to try to come up with a light to mid-range gray. So something like this. That's why I'm putting this here so you can see. Always add black to white, never the other way around because black will overtake it. So just take a little bit and come through. Now when you're painting, creating a gray tone, what you could do as well, another tip, is take a picture with your smartphone, then using the in-camera editing software, the app, or snapseed.com. Go to Snapseed, download on Apple, I don't know, but on Google Play Store, just do Snapseed, download the app, convert your photograph to black and white, and that will give you a really, really good range on matching. And what do we have to remember when we're using acrylics? They dry darker. So what we can do is if we take a little piece of swatch paper, because this is brown, so some of that brown is coming through, and we can do that. Squint your eyes. Okay, and I'm waiting, and it's starting to dry. It is getting a little bit darker, but not quite enough. I'm going to add a smidgen more. Okay, another pop quiz. See, as I'm mixing here, I can see the brown of the no stick paper through the paint. What problem can I have when it comes to using that? So the paint isn't fully opaque. The base shows through. What problem am I going to have with this? So let me know in the comments below. And then all I'm going to do, yeah, that's right. And I'm just going to come in and I'm going to paint it. And I'm painting opposite the direction that I can see my brush strokes. This is, well, I'm going to probably end up giving you the answer because you can see what's happening here. I'm going to end up putting many layers to make this opaque. I like the idea that that varnish or that sealer can be mixed with paint 1-to-1. I like that idea. Which then if you think about it, if you can mix this 1-to-1 with regular acrylic paints, does it turn to that? I think that's an experiment for another time. There we go. So putting your paint up on the ridge doesn't really matter. I'm going to do it just to make it look a little bit cleaner. And once you put it on there, make sure you let it dry completely and then apply another layer. I have no idea how, well, I do, but let's pretend I don't. I have no idea how long this is going to take to dry because I can't use a heat gun. So only make up enough paint that you can use in one painting session. All right, put that in water. And the other thing you can do with this is that you can cover that, and then it'll stay wet longer. I don't like, with the multi-surface satins, I don't like spraying water on there. And we just add a little bit more paint, probably about 4 drops. And then when that's dry, I'll mix that up. Sorry, pretending that's dry, mix that up, try to color match, and then apply another layer. Now, if you don't get each layer perfectly matched to the gray, that's fine. That's fine. Just try to get it, and what you see for gray is going to be different than what this is. You want just a mid-range gray, and you don't want your gray to be too blue, so too cool or too warm. Typically when you use, let's say, an ivory, either an ivory black or a Mars black, sometimes it leans a bit more towards blue. So try to, carbon black, you can try, that's pretty neutral, but try not to use something that's something called warm black or cool black. You want to try to keep it as neutral as possible. Okay, it took 6 layers of paint to complete cover, and I just realized that here I have a little bit of white there. Anyways, it doesn't matter. So it did take a long time to dry because you have to let it air dry. What I did though is I have a furnace vent right underneath my desk, and I just put that on the floor on a paper towel just to speed up the drying time a little bit. Okay, so I'm just gonna let that sit for a bit. So you can, again, you don't have to use the lid. The lid was just basically something that we finished the coffee and I wanted to basically do something with this so it didn't go to landfill, because we can't recycle black plastic here. So what you can do as well, I already talked about using the painting a piece of paper, the mid-tone gray, and then putting glass on top and then sealing the edges. You can do that with a canvas board as well. You can go to the dollar store, get a cheap canvas board, paint that neutral gray, and then coat it with varnish. There's a bunch of different things that you can do. But do whatever feels right for you and whatever you've got. So although this doesn't need to be sealed, and I would typically, if I was going to use this as a permanent palette, a little bit bigger would be better, but I would let that sit for about 10 days, even 2 weeks to air dry, and then go from there. But what I want to do is I want to see what happens when you put the gloss varnish on it. I gave it a light shake, and I have a brush specifically for varnishing, and I'm just going to put that on there. And you know what I should have done first? I should have washed my brush. Because what happens when you've got furnaces that come on? Well, unless you get your furnace ducts cleaned every single year, dust flies all over the place, which is why I sneeze a lot, especially during the winter. There's dust in the brush. I should have cleaned it first. That's why it's all speckly. But this is a video demonstration. You at home can make sure that your brush is dust free. But if you're using the multi-surface satins, you don't need to varnish because they're self-sealing. I just want to see what happens. But see that glare? So I hate glare when I'm doing filming. It's not so much for me, it's for you guys, because when I put this here, I don't see the glare, but with the lights coming down and the camera's right there, it's at a different angle. But there you go. So being the high gloss, it's easier to clean, and all I would do is just put some water on it and wipe it with a baby wipe. That's it. So that's one idea for a palette. Again, the other thing, paint paper under glass, paint even cardboard or something heavy, something cardboard, canvas board, stuff like that, paint it and then cover it with varnish. So there's different things, and I've got, you can use freezer paper. You don't have to have palette paper. Use what you have at home to avoid having to go, especially during the pandemic, without having to go to a store. Even the backing of a notepad like this. If you have a cookie sheet that you can't use anymore, use that. I'm looking around here and I've got so many different things that I can use. A clipboard actually would work out nice because you can take a clipboard. Let me show you. You can take a clipboard, paint that, and then on top put maybe a piece of acetate or something and do that. But it's just, all you really need is something to put paint on that's easy to clean. That's it. All right, so I hope that this, the lady who posted the question, I hope this helps you a little bit, give you some ideas of what you can use for creating paint palettes. And there you go. So if you have any questions, head on over to artplace.ca, click the contact link and fire me off your question there. I read all the emails that come in. And if you'd like to post a picture of the palette that you use, the link is in the description below if you're watching on YouTube, to go to the private Facebook group and post your picture there. And if you're watching this on my Facebook page, same thing. You can post your picture on my Facebook page, but better, post it in the group. And if you're watching in the group, high five. All right, so until I see you next time, stay inspired.